Alright, hello everybody. We got another round of 16 matchup here in the Ultimate Series Solstice Tournament, and this time we've got Muggs is Mexican on the Hellborn side, taking on the Smurf Rapers on the Legion team. Muggs is Mexican, you might remember, took out Tang Zhang Pang, a Gold/Diamond Division team in a 3-game series in the round of 32, so figured, hey, let's follow them a little bit more and see what happens with them in the round of 16. This time they're going up against the Smurf Rapers, who are 24th overall in Han Tour Season 2 points, and finish the season that way, obviously, as the season is over. The Legion side, they started off in the Bronze Division, worked their way up to Gold and Silver. I think they finished in the Silver Division, but they were in Gold for at least a while. 24th overall, so they're pretty solid, just outside the top 19 that made the playoffs, but no doubt should be a solid match between these two teams, as Muggs is Mexican certainly showed that they can hold it with a Diamond Division quality team. And it wasn't like TZP was off their game or they didn't have all their players or something like that. I mean, there was pretty much their full roster, and they just got beat. So I'm expecting a solid series here, as both of these teams should be pretty well matched, and both of them should be pretty high-level, high-quality games. So that'll be fun. And for some reason I'm DC'd from the chat server, but it doesn't really matter. Ophelia Warby's Tempest and Keeper of the Forest are the bans, so wow. Almost all the junglers getting taken out. Parasite the only one available. 4 heroes that really can jungle, and 2 more that suicide pretty well and are used typically in that role. So nothing in those bans that's particularly surprising. Everybody there I think deserves a ban, and is certainly first ban material depending on what you feel like your draft is going to go to. So clearly Pollard over here on TSR and Port to Ace on Hellborn, feeling like those are heroes they don't want to deal with, and therefore removing them from the pool. I really have no objections to any of it.
Parasite.
Kraken and Parasite, the first 2 picks here for TSR, is no surprise. They want to get that jungler. Since he is the only one left on the board, they were like, alright, let's go for that jungle strat. We want to get it as early as possible so that Hellborn can't take it, and indeed Hellborn will now be forced to run a dual support strat unless they want to do something like Jungle Legionnaire, Jungle Bloodhunter. Certainly a viable strategy, I think, but it's not nearly as good as the Jungle Ophelia Tempest or Parasite. Well, really Legionnaire, I think. Honestly, I don't see why he isn't put up there. I think the only reason is because he takes so much damage while he's jungling that he needs to be highly defensive, because if somebody roams from that top lane, they can easily get a kill on him in the woods because he tends to spend so much time at low health. So he needs some pretty significant ward protection in order to be able to make sure that he can effectively jungle. But if he gets that, and if he is undisturbed, he can actually jungle faster than anybody else. So, I mean, I've literally seen Legionnaires in the jungle sit there for 10 minutes or something like that and come out with 500 plus gold per minute. And Ophelia, Tempest, Keeper, Warbeast, Parasite, none of those guys can do that because of how Legionnaire can stack camps and take them rather efficiently. It's just, he's really the only hero that can turn jungle farm into carry farm without having to spend like half an hour in the woods. So we'll see whether Hellborn decide that they really want to run a jungler and they'll pick up somebody like that Legionnaire, or if they will instead choose to run a dual support. They could also do something crazy like that, what we saw in Summit Diamond Cycle 10, where you drag the creeps into the jungle, use them to jungle yourself, so, or the prisoner hook the creeps, the neutral creeps into the lane and have your own creeps chase them back in. So, or if you really want a jungler, then it's pretty hard to take one away from you. Regardless, Bubbles is the last pick over here for Legion, so give them plenty of magical burst, lots of mid-game potential. Right now they only have 1 semi-carry, so Hellborn certainly have the late game on them. The Wretched Hag and Pestilence will provide significantly more late game than Kraken will, especially because he's really the only late game that they have on Legion. So looking like we're hopefully seeing a mid-Kraken, Jungle Parasite, Suicide Bubbles here, and we're looking for a support and a short laner here on TSR. And if that's the case, I like their team quite a lot, actually. Strong initiation from Bubbles and Kraken, really. Good team fight from Bubbles and Kraken. Heavy magical burst damage. Nice mid-game presence from both of those heroes. So if they can turn around and get something to push and something to team fight, maybe, but mostly to carry. So right now I think if they can grab a push and they can grab a carry, then that's going to suit them very well. Obviously Moon Queen there. Always love seeing that hero. So damn powerful. What else? Corrupted Disciples on the board. That is reasonably helpful. Slither is on the board. Strong Pusher. Soul Stealer is also available. Strong Team Fighter Pusher and late game carry. So I think at this point, my favorites out of the typical builds are SS, Moon Queen, and Dark Lady. Those will all help with the push. They will help with the carry, and they have a Parasite and Bubbles to get them a pretty solid mid game. And if they have a strong start, then they can turn that into an impressive late game with those heroes. Hellborn, meanwhile, picking up Torturer as their last selection, so presumably that will be a support, and then looking for a second support here, and really anything else, because they could short lane the Hag, they could suicide the Hag, they could mid the Hag, they could put Pestilence in the shorter mid lane. I do prefer mid Pesty, and I think Hag probably deserves to be in the short lane at this point, so I'm thinking suicide and a second support. Although then Hag really in the short lane here in dual support lineup doesn't really tend to work too well, because you tend to have to run a dual bot or a dual long lane or a tri lane, which could still work. They have Pesty Torturer, and they could definitely run a tri lane here on Hellborn, actually. So we'll see what they choose to do. They certainly have some options. Aggressive, defensive tri lanes are both on the table. They can also run dual lanes and suicide the Hag. They can run a short lane Hag, dual lane bot. They can run a Pesty solo middle and get another hero for the Torturer, and in the long lane and run an aggressive tri lane that way. So plenty of options here. I do expect them to pick up another support hero. And it seems pretty unlikely that they'll actually go for a jungle strat, but it is still a possibility. Obviously, Legionnaire is on the board. Bans are finished here from Legion's side. Grinnik Scout and Plague Rider, so removing pretty much all suicide options. Considering they already have the Hag, I don't think it's the best strat. Yeah, in fact, maybe it is. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably the right call. Just because that will force Hag into the short lane and allow Legion to pick up a harder carry. Because while Hag is a true carry, that hero will carry a team. It's just not as hard a carry as some other heroes like that Sandwraith, Moon Queen, Corrupted, Chronos, DDL. Like there's heroes that will certainly outcarry her. Hellborn bans are Ravener, Rally, and Meraxis, so clearly emphasizing the middle lane and a bunch of strength initiation heroes, which is odd because they've got the Kraken. So presumably they don't really need any of those heroes as they fill a similar role. They're all portal key, jump, initiation, strength heroes with a stun, and so is Kraken. So it doesn't seem to me like that's essential really to picking up or to completing this Legion lineup by any means. So a little strange on the bans there, I think, from Hellborn, but regardless, feeling like they don't want to deal with any more strength initiator heroes. And in fact, honestly, I'd encourage Legion to pick those up because that would basically prevent them from going late game, and that Gemini will not prevent them from going late game. So now that they have the Gemini, TSR has the late game potential. They've got strong mid game with Parasite and Bubbles. They've got good initiation. Their push isn't quite as good as I would have hoped. But Gemini does provide some of that. Glacius and Bubbles will also have some creep damage as well. Building damage isn't the greatest, but they should do all right on push. And so they've got the gank, they've got the initiation, they've got decent enough team fight. Glacius will help with that more than Gemini will, although Gemini is just disruptive and annoying as hell, so he will help. Obviously, he's a carry, but I'm really liking this Legion lineup. I think they've got a lot of solid draft there. Obviously, the lanes are pretty predictable. Could still be a Suicide Kraken and a Babysit Glacius in the short lane with Gemini. Could also be a Kraken, Glacius, middle, Suicide Bubbles. So a couple different options for them, but not too much going on in terms of potential. And it will be TDL and Cersei picked up. So this is definitely be a Suicide Hag. And they are going to go with TDL in the short lane, Pesty, Torturer mid, and Cersei with that TDL in the top. So Hellborn lane's awfully predictable. I don't think there's much chance we won't see that. They still do have the option for the aggressive tri-lane if they think that Legion are going to run the Suicide Kraken, because they could short lane either the Hag or the TDL. Well, if they short lane the TDL, then they'd have to... Or they couldn't short lane the Hag, really, at this point. That's not true. They could short lane the Hag, mid the Pesty, and aggressive tri-lane with TDL. They could also aggressive tri with Pesty, put Hag in short, or put Hag in mid, and put TDL short lane in the solo. So we'll see what they choose to do. I do expect it to be dual lanes. That looks like what's going on. I think that's the right call. TDL, a hero that does benefit extremely a lot from a babysitter, especially if you're not sure what suicide you're going to get, and both Kraken and Bubbles are options here. So if they do decide to suicide the Kraken, TDL could probably take the solo short here. With the charging strikes, it's really hard for Kraken to actually kill her, and in lane in general is off to the side, charging strikes away. Okay, good. That was a little scary for about half a second. Immobilize will go out and help her escape. But obviously the other thing I have to consider here is the pretty extreme lack of stuns. Gemini and Kraken both have one. There's Immobilize and Glacius. So there's a bit of lockdown, but that's one of the few concerns I have about this Legion team is they're not going to be able to shut down an opposing hero very, very effectively. Considering there's a Charging Strikes, Flight, and Blink, plus the Invis from Cersei, there are a lot of getaways and evasive maneuvers and stuff from this Hellborn team. So making sure that they're not running away is going to be a bit of an issue, as the Legion side just don't have that much in the way of lockdown. But Hellborn lane is going to be actually the Kraken top and the Solo and Parasite in the woods with the Glacius bot on Gemini. So that was one of the two options they had. Certainly a strong one. I hope that once they see this TDL... Are they really trialing the defensive trialing the CDL? Okay, good. I hope not. I would certainly hope that Torture is heading middle. Once they realize that TDL is up here against a Kraken, I hope that Cersei starts to rotate effectively. She's probably going to stay here, try to zone out this Kraken as much as possible, give TDL a really good early start, and then start to leave a little bit, because honestly TDL does not need too much help in this lane up against a Kraken. Immobilize is going to miss there. And it's just, I mean, Kraken it just isn't a hero that's really going to kill this Dark Lady. Even if he drops the stun, the torrent, the release the Kraken onto her, she's probably not going to go down from that combination with a good start, some advantages, and she won't get trapped really because of the Charging Strike. So even a good release to Kraken won't offer more than 1 or 2 auto attacks, just because she can get out of it relatively quickly. So we'll see what happens up here. Meanwhile, on bot, that Suicide Hag and Glacius are going at it a little bit. Glacius taking quite a bit of pressure, actually, as well as using some mana for that Tundra Blast to try to get some Hag out of here. This is certainly a lane where Gemini will need some help, because, well, not really need. I think that's a bit strong to say need, but could certainly use a lot of help. So I do like the decision actually to Suicide the Kraken, just because it'll give Gemini a much stronger start than it would if he were up against a solo Hag, just because that haunt damage continuously coming out on Gemini, that continuous harassment, it would make it much more difficult for him to lane. So this way Gemini will get a stronger start, and Gemini is a hero that does a lot better with a strong start. He gets so much out of items because of that elemental force that if you get him geared up really quickly, he will turn into an unstoppable force of nature. Get it? Because elemental stuff in nature. Okay. Anyway, not to mention it does give you some pseudo tri-lane potential here to try to kill this Hag with the Parasite in the woods. Not likely. I don't think that they're actually going to. Yep, man, Twin Fangs missing is not going to help certainly. They're really going for this. Just enough, man. If there were a little more dot damage on Hag, she would have down to 10 health there. Then they could have had that. If that Twin Fangs had hit, they definitely would have killed her, I think. So, or if Parasite had been here. So that'll show you, Parasite being down here makes this lane dangerous for Hag. Because with the Ice Imprisonment, the Immobilize preventing the Blink, plus the stun, and then the Leech from Parasite, that is very possibly, and the Breath for that matter, that is very possibly enough burst damage to kill this wretched Hag. And that's one of the bigger issues with Hag is the Suicide is generally the squishiness. Obviously the Blink helps a lot with that, and his Impalement doing a ton of damage to this Bubbles. Courier will come out and deliver him a bottle, that'll help, plus he has a health bot, so he should be able to stay in lane quite easily. Throws the Shell Surf out onto Torture. And that means initiation from Hellborn, but he backs up onto the tower and will be alright. So no surprise Cersei realizing that, wow, he really wants to unblock this camp. This Ward of Sight was well placed. Using 2 Rev to get rid of it. And he will try to pull this lane as soon as possible. Still going to take a couple of minutes, of course, because you need at least a double stack really to pull, and even then it only works if you get specific creeps. So TDL up top, having a pretty solid time, 330 gold per minute, as the top farmer in the game, has 25 and 76 and 6 now CS. Kraken up here not doing that well, 8 and 1, but 150 gold per minute, certainly not bad. Not really being forced to use too much of his regen at this point. Still has a bunch of one Tree Eater, and a health pot, so he's alright. Legion's Courier killed by a Hag because it's still not upgraded. We're 4.5 minutes in. Immobilized there on Kraken, plus the Charging Strikes and the Dark Blades. Will be able to do a bunch of damage, and the Illusions, but he has the charge away, so he'll be fine. Lots of damage there on a Kraken, but he'll just take his health pot and should be alright to continue in this lane. So for some reason, 4.5 minutes in, the Courier is unupgraded. I don't understand why that's the case. It certainly delayed Bubbles' bottle in mid, and I don't know, that's not really something that can happen. So regardless, certainly Hellborn winning this top lane pretty hard, but Kraken holding his own and certainly performing as a suicide should, keeping his levels up, making sure he gets a little bit of farm, enough to be able to gank somewhat regularly and provide something in these team fights. And for Kraken, of course, that's mostly going to come in the form of abilities early on, not too much from items, but he is certainly doing his job. So well done to him. Bubbles in mid at 173 gold per minute. Of course, getting dual lane, not going to do quite as well. Pesty is at 299, 29 and 3. Bubbles is at 13 and 2. So Bubbles getting some CS here, not too much, but once again, enough. Both Bubbles and Kraken really heavily reliant on damage and abilities in general. Impulse not going to take cover there, so you will be fine as they're diving a little bit, really trying to pressure this Bubbles, but not easy, of course, as Bubbles is a highly defensive mid player, so the dual lane here, not the biggest deal for him. And doing fairly well. Over on bot, Gemini's at 322 gold per minute, 35 and 15, just a little bit behind that Dark Lady. And Hag, for her part, is substantially behind Kraken, just 1 and 1. So Legion side, plus the dual support, is taking a pretty solid gold and experience advantage of about 1,000 gold and 2,600 experience. Torture roaming top, trying to look for a pick onto this Kraken, but won't find one. There's the 6-minute rune. It's gone. Is he invis? No. It's bot. It's a DD, and Parasite just killed it. And Pale Sun getting a couple of kills there for Pesty. Tiana chasing down Kraken a little bit, has those Ghost Marchers, so she's going to hit pretty hard. But laning phase so far going pretty well for Legion. And that's going to transition into a really nice mid-game, because certainly the mid-game here is in favor of Legion. With Parasite and Bubbles, there's going to be a significant amount of burst damage, especially because there are 2 support heroes on Hellborn. The Cersei and Torture are going to be very, very difficult to keep alive in this situation. Torture taking a ton of damage. The port's stopping a lot. He's definitely going to fall. So I don't understand. Those ports actually were not that good. Off to the side, Parasite or Pestilence will pour it out. So really an awful dive from the Hellborn side. Parasite coming in here as well. So strong response here from Legion. Probably not necessary. In fact, if they hadn't done that, Bubbles would have gotten the Bloodlust and they wouldn't have had to leave their lane. So I don't really agree with all the ports coming in. I understand why they did that, just like, okay, Bubbles is getting jumped, let's do this. And really, it's possible they could have gotten a turn kill on Pesty, but Torture was definitely going to die from all the tower damage. So they definitely had the Bloodlust kill going in favor of Legion there, expanding their lead a little bit more. And this is basically me a situation where I think Hellborn certainly have the late game because they have TDL and Hag and Cersei, actually, who will turn into a very annoying late game hero, especially if she's able to take over that Gemini, which she should be able to do. Taint Soul and Immobilize going on to Kraken there. You see the Dark Blades and the Charging Strikes for in second. Nope. In fact, do not come out. Up top, Gemini looking for something. Twin Fangs is available, does not hit anything. And Invis is going to be popped by Cersei, so the Hellborn will get away just fine. Immobilize there as well. And actually now, that was a nice bounce there. Release the Kraken goes out, will catch this TDL, but she's just going to run out of it. Cersei taking over Gemini, and will get the Twin Breath off. Splits, 1 stun. And this is actually me killing Gemini as well. They won't get TDL, so 2 for 1 there as Cersei takes over the gem. And that's obviously the problem with running against Cersei, is you get massive farm on a hero and it gets turned around on you. So well played there. Actually, the immobilized bounce is pretty critical. I don't know if I assume that they planned that. They were like, okay, we'll immobilize the Gemini. If Kraken stays near enough to get the bounce, we'll run on him, and that they did, and that was very successful. Parasite in the meantime, trying to get a kill on this Hag. Won't do so, I don't think. Thunder Blast is there. Jeez. Did she not have mana or something? I didn't even notice. But the silence certainly didn't last as long as it did, as Parasite was chasing her. So I guess she just didn't have the mana for Blink. So they will get a turn kill down there, 2-2. But certainly the exchange is going in favor of Hellborn as they get their Suicide and Carry lost on Legion. 2 kills, in fact, going in TDL's favor now. 400 gold per minute, and they only lose their Hag. So Hellborn taking some of that golden experience back. Bugs go onto Bubbles there, so they will have vision of him. Kraken now heading middle. Obviously does not have a release of Kraken, dropped it up top on a TDL. And Legion's certainly still in the lead, and should be in the lead now for quite a while. Off to the side, Kraken going to charge in, put the Torrent on top of Pesty. Shellsurf comes in, there's the Song of the Sea Kelp Field, and now Pesty's in a lot of trouble. Will drop here as he already used the Sun, so not available to him. Torture has an Invis rune, and as a result won't get caught by Glacius or Gemini. So, good performance so far here from Legion. They get another hero pick, and they're doing quite well. Actually, Red Ward goes down there, and that means Torture's in a lot of trouble. There's the Ice Imprisonment. He just does get the kill on Glacius, so it ends up being a 1-for-1. But Kraken getting the kill, a little better. Ultimate taken out, and Bubbles will get jumped here by this Cersei. He's in a lot of trouble. Not enough, though. So Bubbles tries to go in there and get the kill, but health pot on Bubbles, and he'll be fine. Will counter the ward here. Pestilence puts the bugs onto Bubbles, but not going to choose to go in for a good reason. On bot, Hag perhaps in some more trouble. Here comes Parasite once again with the face hug. Obviously has plenty of mana now, but not enough to survive this silence. And meanwhile, up top, Tower falls by TDL, so continuing to increase her farm, 460 gold per minute. She has the Sustainer. She should have the Cleave in another couple of minutes. In mid, Chain Reaction is going to miss on Kraken. Pesty off to the side looking for something, but here's Parasite now. Puts the release. The release of Kraken is down. Will catch Parasite for Pestilence. Immobilized there onto Kraken, though, and he takes the kill field onto Pesty. Now, Kraken going to run away. Pesty trying to get the hell out of here. He's running off into the woods, digging his way through the trees, trying to juke. Leech, though, will finish him off. Glacial Downpour finishing off Torture, and that's a 2-for-0 there. Bubble Shellsurf, Song of the Sea coming in. Gonna kill Hag. Cersei's now the only one left. That's a 3-for-0 in favor of Legion. Massacre. And they are indeed owning. So we'll see what Hellborn can try to do to recover from this. It's basically going to be TDL. As you can see quite clearly, TDL is at 451 gold per minute, massively ahead of anybody else in the game. But Parasite and Gemini doing pretty well for Legion. Kraken and Bubbles doing solidly as well. And the only other person on Hellborn that's really had as much of anything is that Parasite. Sorry, Pestilence. Too many damn P heroes. Parasite, Pestilence, they're too similar. So TDL continuing to free farm top, and just going to have to protect her as much as possible, protect her farm, and hope that she will carry them in the late game. And the way things are going right now, it's certainly possible. Gemini does not really have the farm yet to compete with her if this continues at this rate. The thing I'm concerned about is I think Gemini's farm is going to start to explode because Legion's heroes will massively open the map for him. With the Bubbles and Parasite, it's going to be really hard for Hellborn to survive much of anything. If you look at this, Vestments are on Pestilence, but he only has 900 health. I don't think he's on Strength Steam Boots. He is on Strength Steam Boots. Okay, that's 1,000. So he's got about 1,100 health here with the Vestments on Strength Steam Boots. Bubbles and Parasite will kill him. Hag does not have Vestments and has those Steam Boots and 740 health, so she'll die to either one of them. Torture or Cersei, a similar situation. So there are really 4 heroes here up there. Sorry, TDL gets a drop there. And Cersei taking over Kraken will kill this Kraken, obviously. Counter release the Kraken coming out there, and Gemini is coming in for a couple. TDL trying to get out of there will do so. Cersei's thing wearing off, puts the invis down. Shellsurf going off, and she's trying to hide in the trees. Actually, we'll take the Kelpfield stun there, and does die just barely to the Thunder Blast and the breath from Gemini. So 1-for-1 there, TDL, or sorry, Kraken for Cersei. So strong turn there, but still in favor of Hellborn, especially because TDL did once again get the kill. in mid. We're going to see a jump here onto Pesty, and he's probably going to die. Bat Blast goes out there, but a little too much damage onto Pesty to prevent him from dying. So that's what I was talking about. The two of them will kill Pestilence. That's just what's going to happen. They didn't even need a kelp field there. Just the relatively short cooldown of Parasite's ultimate, his leech, and the couple of nukes from Bubbles, and a couple auto attacks. So that's the situation here. Really, TDL, I think, is the only hero on the Hellborn side that can survive the burst, and she might not even do so, depending on how much damage they can put out during the silence, preventing the charging strikes away. If it is enough, and at 948 health, it's very possible it will be enough. It certainly just happened to Pesty, and TDL doesn't even have investment. So honestly, I think that they can kill anybody on this Hellborn team, the two of them, and alone they could easily kill either support and very likely Hag as well. Especially as she does not have the investments right now, sitting at 739 health on Instinct Boots, so it should be a closer to about 800-900 on strength, but will still be relatively squishy. Up top, looking for a jump here on TDL. Invis Gemini won't hit the stun. He continues to have issues with that. Kelpfield goes down there, helping to lock her down, but the charging strikes away, takes the Kelpfield stun. She's a little too fast now with Joe's Ghost Marchers, though, and she should be alright. So, Gemini having some issues landing that Twin Fangs. It's becoming a problem. And I think she just disjointed a Codex. That's new. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a disjoint on a Codex with an Invis before. But gets it off. Parasite, of course, does have that Codex 15 minutes in. On top of the Ghost Marcher's Blood Chalice. That's pretty solid farm, actually. 340 gold per minute for a Parasite's quite solid. 3-0 and 1, of course. So, strong kill involvement as well. Parasite's having a nice game. Gemini having a solid game. TDL having a very good game. But that's really all the Hellborn team is right now, is that TDL. And a little bit of Pesty. And so looking at the GPM charts, it's pretty clear. So Hellborn by no means out of this. Everything gets dropped on Pesty. I was like trying to say face hug, but easy kill there with the Skeleton King net, and release the Kraken, probably not even necessary, but dropped anyway, just to make sure they can secure that kill, and I don't really have strong objections to that. Mid tower now going to get pressured. This Torturer is the second time he's stunned on top of a tower. A little weird. Anyway, the other thing we have to consider here is the tower situation. Legion have taken 0 towers now in 17 minutes. In fact, they haven't pressured too many that heavily. Bot tower is getting finally pressured. Mid was getting hit a little bit. Top tower has taken like 1 hit of damage. So they're not going to have the most map control at this point just because they've already lost their top tower. It's not the biggest deal for them either, but they're going to need to start taking some towers too if they want to be able to open this map up and get a lot of picks. Having support from the Hellborn team pretty much no matter where they are, because towers are available to port to, is a bit of an issue when you're trying to use burst damage to help carry you through a mid game and take you to late. The other thing you have to consider, of course, is they do have the Hag on Hellborn, so if this does go extremely late, there's a really good chance that Hellborn will be able to recover this and win, not just because TDL's farm's that much better than Gemini's, but because they'll have a second carry in Hag and a semi-carry in Pestilence, and both Bubbles and Parasite will drop off in that area, leaving pretty much just the semi-carry Kraken and carry Gemini. So secondary tower going down on top by TDL as she continues to expand her farm, 550 gold per minute. So we'll see if really this one core strat on Hellborn, as on bot Bubbles gets picked off by, or Hag gets picked up by Bubbles. A couple auto attacks, Kelpfield is there, Shell Surf, Song of the Sea, and it's it. Yep. So that's what I was talking about before, is Hag will die to this Bubbles. In mid, meanwhile, Pestilence going to have the Haste Rune. Needs to get the hell out of there. Looks like he will do so. Impalement from Torture preventing further aggression, but mid tower will get pushed in fairly well here and should drop. Looks like there's going to be some defense from Torture and Cersei. Glyph goes out. Pesty getting an Invis Rune, and actually it's dusted there and charged back into the Ice Imprisonment, plus the ultimate from Glacius. Haste still activated, and the flight will be alright. Kraken getting taken over here. Parasite trying to pick off this Torture, not going to do so. Release the Krakens on top of each other. Parasite infests a creep, just gets the kill on Gemini. He splits up, puts one stun there. TDL coming in with the Dark Blades will pick off this Gemini. So it's a 1-for-1 right now. Hag coming in off of the side, gets the Black Pass on the Kraken, will kill him as well. So 2-for-1 in favor of Hellborn. And that looks like it'll be it, as that was really nice. Release the Kraken and take over from Cersei. TDL coming in just at the right time to stop that Gemini from being able to burst. Meanwhile, trying to get a pick onto Pesty, he has nothing. And Parasite actually dies in the meantime. Now Bubbles in some trouble. Rhymes. Charging strikes in there for him, taking a lot of damage. Dark Blaze, of course, stopping him from doing much of anything. But that Pestilence got away at, now he's 35 health, so he's probably under 20. Bubbles nearly getting a pick onto him. If, of course, he had had the help field, then he probably would have gotten at least 2 kills, I think, with how low everybody was. The Hag as well would have been kelp filled in 1 or 2 auto attacks, and she would have died. Unfortunately, that cooldown, man, just a little too long. So all of a sudden, Hellborn with a really nice fight back there, 3 for 1 exchange, losing only the Torture and taking Parasite Gemini, and Kraken. And did Glacius die as well? No, I don't think so. Just 3. Plus the mid tower, of course. So defended their mid tower, and Ro16 dies. They fail to deny it, so that's interesting. Oh, sorry, there's a Legion here. I thought there were other one here for some reason. But anyway, so mid towers are exchanged ultimately, but still a 1 fight for Hellborn, as they did have a gold lead for about half a second, but now it is back in favor of Legion with a tower kill. Gemini resorting to farming the woods here in the split form. Has picked up an Ice Brand, presumably going for Frostburn, as the Quick Blade is also in his inventory. Interesting that you go Ice Brand first. I would think that the Light Brand first. Pesty, meanwhile, going to get jumped by a couple of heroes and will die pretty easily. Just not very tanky at this point. 1,200 gold. Hag coming in looking for some cleanup, but we'll put the Haunt down. Now Parasite's in some trouble. Gemini is going to jump on out of there, but Parasite won't be so lucky. Gets destroyed by that TDL, and TDL is becoming a problem. 630 gold per minute. 6-0-1. 197 CS. It's nearly 100 more than Gemini, who's just 115. So this Dark Lady is now becoming an issue, as her farm is so good that she is becoming a carry much faster than she normally would. And the Parasite Bubbles here that should have taken over the mid game are sort of ceding a lot of control to this TDL. Up top, Pesty once again looking to get jumped. Bubbles is off to the side. Kraken's here as well. He does not have a portal key, but he has a Soul's Bulwark. Some support coming in on a TP, but Illusion Bubbles off to the side. Will take bugs and die quickly as they realize it's just a fake. Actually, in middle, get a pick on a TDL. Jump and Twin Fangs finally hit. There's the Ice Imprisonment and the ultimate from Glacius. Gemini being able to lock her down for just long enough to get the kill. That's a pretty big kill for him. Not only 560 gold, boosting to 424 gold per minute, but it's going to prevent TDL from farming for a while, about a minute. Kelp Field goes out onto Paris. Pestilence. Ultimate from Cersei will take the release of the Kraken, and we'll see if Pesty can help turn this around. Kraken now taking a lot of damage. Pestilence is going to survive. Kraken's now in a ton of trouble, taking so many tower hits, will drop. So nice Cersei ultimate there, of course, porting in earlier, much earlier, and providing support for that Pestilence, and then being patient, so when he got jumped, they had to turn around. So nice fight back there from Hellborn, as they did lose TDL in mid, which is a pretty huge deal, but they get a kill onto Kraken in return. DD on Gem, taking some CS, as they did also take the bot tower a while ago. So tower is still in favor of Hellborn, as they have taken this top secondary, but much more even than they were a few minutes ago. Hag coming down here, trying to look for some farm. Obviously at this point does not go in for the Grimoire or Light Brand, just because at this point it would be a 35, 30, maybe even 40-minute Grimoire, and that's not really worth it anymore. Instead, probably will go for more utility build, has a Grave Block investment, so a little bit tankier than she normally would be. Parasite off to the side in a Wild Hunter, looking for a pick onto somebody. Rev Ward there spotting him out, so they know he's got a Wild Hunter. And Rev Ward actually from Glacius will counter 2 Revs from Hellborn. Torture trying to look for something here. Won't find it, and Glacius will get the kill on both of these wards. Second Wild Hunter taken over here by Parasite. Continuing to look for a jump. Up top, TDL going on to Gemini, and we'll see if he can do anything. Energizer and Saint Soul there, plus the Ice Brand does so much. The Dark Blazer there, and will get the kill. So much damage that Silence lost for so long if you keep hitting people. Gemini just not able to get away. So, a return kill You know, if you kill me, then I'm going to deal with you. Glacius Kraken over here in the middle trying to get a jump onto Torture. Parasite's also here. So there's the Light Brand from TDL will finish Dawnbringer. So we're 24 minutes in. She has an Abyssal Skull, Rune Cleaver, and Dawnbringer finished. As I'm thinking, she's looking for a Shrunken Head. Probably, I'm surprised she didn't go for it earlier, but I don't really mind that actually. I'm not really a huge fan of the first item Shrunken. It just seems to me like it hurts it in the late game if you use up all those charges so early, especially when you don't really need them early. As there aren't as many team fights. Meanwhile, in mid, Parasite will get the kill onto Torturer here, just finds him. And there's Death. Cersei now going to take him over, but running away, perhaps going to be able to do so, and yep, just pour that out. So that's one thing that seems to be broken about the Cersei ultimate, is you can't break it by running away. So unless you have a stun, you can't stop it. Or a silence. And it seems to me like you should be able to break it by running out of the channel range. That would certainly make it a lot more difficult to use and I think balance that hero. And I think there's a general consensus that I agree with that hero is a little bit too powerful. Bubbles farming up middle. So of course Parasite getting a free pick onto that Torture, but Hellborn are going to turn that into a bot tower push, it looks like, as he... Is that Cersei keeping the Parasite for forever because she's inside a Warlock? That's ridiculous. And meanwhile, off to the side, going to be a jump by TDL and Pesty. Will try to kill this Gemini, and they will get it. Bat Blast onto 2 there. Well done. Parasite also going to fall. Bubbles in some trouble. He's going to drop. Glacius now in trouble. That's a 4 for nothing there in favor of Hellborn as they brought their entire team. This is going to turn into a bot tower push pretty easily. There's a Mighty Blade on TDL. That will definitely be a Shrunken Head at this point. And this is going to be an easy bot tower. Possibly a secondary as well. Man, TDL cleans up that creep wave super fast with the cleave. So there's the Shrunken. 26 minutes in. DB, Vessel, Rune Cleaver, and Shrunken Head. She's at 715 gold per minute. And getting the illusions from Cersei too is going to be very helpful in killing these towers. So it looks like they're going to choose to back up there. With the TDL fake pushing in a little bit still. Up top, Kraken trying to push this tier 1 tower. Still hasn't died. We're 26 minutes into this game. And Golden Experience now going substantially in favor of Hellborn, so this is the point where Legion should have really been able to take a really strong lead, but this TDL's farm is just ridiculous. They were completely unable to shut her down in the early game, and completely unable to shut her down in the mid game, as she's just had safe farm. I mean, you look at the rest of the Hellborn team, they've been repeatedly ganked by Bubbles and Parasite. TDL just hasn't. And I don't know if that's because they haven't had the opportunities. And she has not really been in lane all that much, completely by herself. So there's some of that. But it's also been a little bit of... it feels like they're not hunting the woods for her. They're not trying to... They're like, okay, we need to kill TDL. They're just like, we need to kill somebody. Which is good. Killing somebody is always good. But specifically, they need to kill that TDL. Because it's nice to keep down the rest of the team, but at some point, you gotta address the Dark Lady. Conquer being attempted here. TDL just soloing it with the Abyssal Skull. Taking a bunch of bashes here, but the Dark Blades and Charging Strikes helping out a lot. So TDL fake, of course, off to the side. And looks like Legion either don't know this is going on or don't want to do anything about it. This Word of Sight might not actually have seen that Dark Blade. I think there's a little patch of darkness here, so if she went right around the edge, she would have been okay. And there goes Kongor. So now Dark Lady has a token. Jump in here by Pesty onto 2. Kraken charges him away. Release the Kraken gets dropped onto Pestilence, but he has a haste rune, and now that's Kraken's in a ton of trouble. He will die. Cersei taking him over. Actually, he dies before he can finish the channel. Massacre. That's going to be the night pick. They need jump here onto Glacius as well. She's dropping. That's a 2 for nothing, plus a token on the TDL. This is going to be a base push. TDL just sitting in the front going, alright, tower, come at me, bro. Codex continuing to be leveled up here on this Parasite, but Gemini's off farming, Bubbles is farming top. They need to get the hell back here. Charging Strikes just wrecks those creep waves. And Glyph going out, but you can see how quickly this tower is dying. Gemini going to Twin Fangs in onto 3, in fact, also gets the Twin Breath off. Charging Strike's not going to hit. Taint Soul is there to slow him down. But Shrunken Head goes off before he can do anything. Does get the Codex onto Torture, will die in the background, but Gemini's going to fall here as he splits up. Kelpfield onto 3. Glacial Downpour going down. Parasite just going to live here. Instead, TDL focusing on this Gemini, who's now bought back off to the side. We've got a death onto Pesty. Token gets popped here by TDL, who's now in a little bit of trouble, choosing to try to get away with the Charging Strikes. Darkness falls onto a bunch of them, but they're just going to chase. Immobilize there hits Kraken. That's reasonably helpful, but now TDL's in some trouble. She will drop. So dive, dive, dive. Not a good idea. And Legion successfully defend. It does cost them buybacks on both Kraken and Gemini, but they don't even lose their base tower. And it's pretty clear that the Hellborn did not play that correctly. If they had just focused on the tower and been like, alright, if you want to come fight us out here, then we'll fight you and we'll win. But we're not going to dive past everything, and they dove past their tier 4 towers, really. Which doesn't tend to end well. Well diving at this stage of the game, not really a great idea. 730 gold per minute still here on TDL, so I think Hellborn is still firmly in control of this game. They've got a 10k gold to 8k experience rate, so it's not like they can, you know, they're half a second away from throwing, but they're going to put the jump and everything onto Bubbles. Going to try to kill him. Kelpfield onto 3. Parasite breaks the Kelpfield, actually, and now he's in some trouble. Codex onto Torture. He will survive. Chain Reacts to finish off Parasite, but Bubbles porting into the side song. Let's see, finish off Torture. Ice Imprisonment there onto Parasite. Not enough. Release the Kraken gets dropped by Kraken. Parasite. Pestilence now going to fall. Or Kraken falls, actually. Sorry. Cersei looking for an escape. Bugs onto Gemini. And shoot, I completely missed that. For some reason, Hag is over here picking off this Glacius. Gemini now in some trouble, actually. He's getting gored, and the Stoner Scream finishes him off, so that's a 4-for-0 without Dark Lady. That was surprising. And as the rest of the Hellborn team show they can do something. And I think at this point, just look at, I mean, Legion's farm just all across the board, even on Gemini, is not that good. 300 GPM on both Bubbles and Parasite, 220 on Kraken, so he's not doing very well at all. 375 on Gemini for 31 minutes into this game is not good. And TDL has double that, so it's really not good. Now she's just going to be like, alright, Tower, you're dead. Alright, Rax, you're dead. As Legion heroes are coming back relatively soon, but they should be able to get this Rax if they just commit to it and then leave.
A Legion barracks has been destroyed.
Take the range too.
A Legion
now get out.
barracks has been destroyed.
I see, of course, having that portal key finally. Sheepstick on Hag. That was actually relatively quick considering how bad her farm was. 330 gold per minute now. She's recovered fairly well. All the tower kills, the Kongor certainly help. As there goes a base tower and a lane down in favor of Hellborn. 15k gold, 13k experience off to the side. Pesty gets to jump onto 3. Immediate kill on the Glaciers. Black Blast as well. Finishes off Bubbles and Parasite. All down. There's Kraken as well. Gemini going to avoid the mobilize, but he's still in a lot of trouble. CCvo goes out, and I don't disagree with that at this point. Charging Strikes in. Bubbles buys back, but they've got to kill the Gemini now. Bubbles is not going to die because there goes the CC. Kelpfield on the 3, and he'll be okay. But Legion, really good draft, and they did pretty well in the laning phase, but they just never addressed that Dark Lady, and she got so big. 760 gold per minute. That's one of the best farms I've seen in a very, very long time. Extremely well played there on Hellborn's side, managing to sit behind that TDL who just got crazy huge. And you know, despite the fact that I think Legion did get the better draft here, if you're going to let somebody get 760 gold per minute, you're probably not going to win the game. So Game 1 does, in fact, go to the Hellborn side on Muggs is Mexican, and that will put TSR into a 1-0 hole, 1-0 hole, 0-1 hole.